All right, let's dive into something wild. We're talking about one of the most unbelievable places of the 20th century, the Kowloon Walled City. I mean, this was a place so dense, so lawless, so completely out of control that when you look at it, you just think, this shouldn't have been real. So just to give you an idea of how insane this was, you've probably heard of Dharavi, right? Asia's biggest slum. Well, Kowloon was 7 times more densely packed. Can you even imagine that? We're talking about hundreds of buildings all crammed and fused together, almost like one giant chaotic beehive. It was so dense you could literally cross the entire city on its rooftops without ever setting foot on the ground. So this all begs a couple of huge questions, right? First, how on earth could a place like this, a genuine black spot on the map, even exist in the first place? And maybe the even bigger mystery is, why was it just completely wiped off the face of the earth? That's what we're going to figure out. Okay, so the story of how this place came to be is it's not a grand plan, it's actually a bizarre political accident. Think of it like a glitch in the matrix of global politics that created this void, this governance black hole where no one had any real power. So here's the quick history lesson. Back in 1842, Britain gets Hong Kong. Then in 1898, they lease a bunch more land for 99 years. But, and this is the key detail, a tiny, walled Chinese military fort right in the middle of it all was specifically left out of the deal. Now, you fast forward to 1947. China's in the middle of a brutal civil war, and refugees start pouring into this one tiny spot of land that nobody's actually governing. And this is what created this totally bizarre standoff. You had China, which on paper had legal control, but they couldn't physically get to it because it was deep inside British Hong Kong. And then you had Britain, who could walk right in, but they had zero legal authority to do anything, no right to police it, nothing. It was the perfect recipe for a governance black hole. And the crazy irony here is that this completely lawless zone became a kind of safe haven. If you were fleeing the war in China, this was a place you could go where no one could legally touch you. So people just flooded in, and they started building and building and building. Straight up, no engineers, no permits, just homes stacked on top of homes. And that's how you get the chaotic vertical city that became so infamous. Now, you know what they say about power vacuums, right? Nature abhors them, and when governments step away, something else always rushes in to fill the void. In Kowloon, that something was the Triads. These ruthless criminal gangs saw an opportunity and turned the city into their own private kingdom. And I mean, their control was absolute. Yeah, sure, they ran the obvious stuff, the drug dens, the gambling halls, the brothels. But it was so much deeper than that. You couldn't buy or sell an apartment without getting their okay. Every single business, I don't care if you were a noodle shop or one of the many, many unlicensed dentists, you had to pay them a protection tax. They even set up their own illegal factories, churning out everything from plastic toys to machine parts. And if you wanted to join them, you had to go through this absolutely terrifying blood oath ritual. Imagine this. A sword is placed right on your neck, and you have to declare that your neck is stronger. Then they mix your blood with an animal's blood in a pot, and you have to drink it. After that, you swear 36 oaths that bind you for life. It was all about ensuring loyalty through pure, unadulterated fear. But here's the thing. As brutal as they were, the Triad's most powerful weapon wasn't a sword or a gun. It was psychological warfare. They didn't just control the streets. They figured out how to hijack the minds of an entire city, and they did it by weaponizing superstition. So the first layer of this is something you might have heard of, Stockholm Syndrome. It's that psychological trick where people who are held captive, who are oppressed, actually start to identify with their captors. It's a defense mechanism, right? The mind's way of coping when you're in an impossible situation. But then it got even weirder, and it morphed into something more like full-blown cult psychology. See, the Triads created this whole mythology that they had power over ghosts and evil spirits. So if you stepped out of line, it wasn't just them you had to worry about. These spirits would curse you, curse your family. Suddenly, their raw fear tactics were reframed as a kind of religion, and their control just became tradition. This really gets to the core of how it worked. When escaping pain is impossible, the mind plays a trick. It starts to say that maybe the pain is right. Think about that. People weren't just scared anymore. Their own minds started to rationalize it, to believe that maybe the Triads were actually showing them the right way to live. It's a heartbreaking way the brain tries to find meaning in suffering. So Okay, we've got this criminal empire operating in plain sight, built on fear and psychological manipulation. And this leads us to the biggest, most shocking reveal of all. The lawlessness of Kowloon wasn't just an accident that the world's powers ignored. It was something they actively used. I mean, it's the big question, isn't it? Why would the British government, which ruled all of Hong Kong, let this festering criminal state exist right under their noses? The answer, it turns out, is a dirty little secret of geopolitics. The secret was an operation codenamed Yellowbird. This happened right after the horrific Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. You see, Western intelligence agencies like the CIA and Britain's MI6 desperately needed a way to sneak pro-democracy dissidents out of mainland China. And to do that, they needed a partner who knew how to operate in the shadows. So they made a deal with the devil. It was a classic quid pro quo. The CIA and MI6 gave the Triads what they wanted: money, fake IDs, and, this is the most important part, protection from the Hong Kong police. In return, the Triads used their vast smuggling networks, their secret routes, their speedboats, to ferry over 400 activists to safety. So the West got its heroes out, and the Triads got a get-out-of-jail-free card for their entire criminal enterprise. But, as we all know, these kinds of alliances of convenience, they always have an expiration date. And as the Cold War was winding down and Britain was getting ready to hand Hong Kong back to China, this useful chaos was about to become a huge international embarrassment. And that set the stage for the city's final, brutal act. And just like that, the city that was once an asset became a massive problem. For the British, it was this ugly symbol of their failure to govern. For China, it was a lawless mess they were about to inherit. For the first time, both sides agreed on something. Kowloon had to go. And so, in the early 1990s, the bulldozers moved in. 33,000 people were forcibly evicted. For many of them, it was the only home they had ever known. Now, to make sure this all went down quietly without a big fight, a massive compensation package was put on the table: 2.76 billion Hong Kong dollars. Let's call it what it was. It was hush money, designed to make the problem and its people vanish. But what's truly mind-blowing is what happened next. The city wasn't just knocked down, it was systematically scrubbed from history. You go looking for official files in the British archives? Nothing. You look for artifacts in Chinese museums? Nope. There are stories of photographers having their cameras smashed just for trying to document the demolition. It was a coordinated effort to make it seem like Kowloon never even existed. And this gets to the real heart of it. Kowloon wasn't torn down just because it was a slum. It was torn down because it was a mirror. It was a mirror that reflected the hypocrisy and the dirty secrets of the world's most powerful nations. They saw their own true faces in it, and they shattered it. And that really leaves us with a final kind of haunting question. The story of this entire city was almost buried forever. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other truths, what other entire histories have been lost simply because the people who win the wars are the ones who get to write the history books?